This is the MOSHPIT Backstage podcast for punk, metal and rock interviews and segments.
Hey there, this is Tim from Protest the Hero, and you're listening to the MOSHPIT on Sim.
Tim Miller is a guitarist of progressive metal band Protest the Hero. They will be supporting their latest album, Pacific Myth, with an Australian tour playing in Melbourne at the Corner Hotel on April 21st. Tim, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, in terms of a live show, how do you kind of approach it? Because with a live show, there's lots of energy going around. Some bands like to jump around like crazy, but you're playing a kind of very technical music. How do you approach a live show?
Yeah, I think we definitely, when we were a younger band, we put an emphasis on rocking out and going crazy and not too much of an emphasis on executing our music. But now we try to find a balance of having fun and putting on a show, at the same time trying to make sure that we do the music justice and are able to perform everything up to snuff.
In terms of Australia, I think this is your third time here. When you come to a different country, do you approach it any differently than you would any other country that you play in?
It just really depends on, I guess, where the band's at. I think we were pretty lucky when it comes to Australia because we came over the first time with Soundwave, and then the next time we came back we were able to do like a small headliner, and this time it sounds like we're doing a headliner as well. So I think we've been a lot more fortunate in a place like Australia, not having to really put in all the grueling touring that we've done in a place like Canada or the U.S. to try to build the fan base. So yeah, it really comes down to how the reception is and how quickly you can grow. But it seems like what's been going on in Australia has been working well for us.
Now, in terms of the Pacific Myth album, or EP, whatever you want to call it, it was released on Bandcamp, but not using a model I think most people would be familiar with. Could you talk a little bit about how you released it and why you chose to do it that way?
Yeah, so it kind of worked out nicely that Bandcamp had opened up this kind of subscription idea around the time we wanted to do something very similar to what they were offering. So what we decided, instead of kind of going dark for however many months to write and record an album, we thought we could just do each song by song, and then release it to whoever wanted to subscribe to the Pacific Myth Project, a song at a time for 6 months. So whoever signed up, they got one song each month for 6 months. And we just thought that was a cool way to, A, slow down the release process, but also kind of build excitement where, you know, you get one song and then you have to wait a month to digest that, and then you get something new. And we just thought it was kind of an interesting way to approach releasing music.
In terms of the way people receive it, do you have any thoughts about like the fact that it's not an album where you can say, oh, I like that song, I don't like that song? There's kind of very much, there'll be a focus on each individual song at a time, because there's sort of, you've already digested the other song, the next song's a month away. Do you have any thoughts about like how that works in this kind of model? Like very much a very individualistic approach to each song.
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing is that the people that were a part of it kind of got to experience something more than just the music. And I think looking back now, or if someone were to come across the album now, it would just be an album to them. But I think for the core of the people that were subscribed, they had this kind of interactive thing, and they got to kind of have this experience that now that it's passed, no one else is really going to have that same experience with the album. So, and just the interaction, I think we had a lot of interaction with people that would, you know, the second we post a song, people would be writing, and we'd kind of been commenting back and forth on the post, and then there was just kind of this really cool community that was happening as each song was released, and just a discussion about it. And yeah, it was really, I think, satisfying for both us, the band, and hopefully for anyone that was part of it.
that's actually a really interesting thought, because the way we kind of have previously approached it, as the music industry, is so they announce they're recording an album or something like that. They record it, they promote it, and then it's released. And it's very much a one-way, the band saying, hey, this is coming, this is really, really coming, and then it's here. But in this way, do you think maybe this can drive a really more close-knit relationship between bands and their fans? Because it's not just a one-way street. With all these different models, Bandcamp, I know you've done a crowdfunding campaign for the last album. Do you think this can sort of drive a kind of tighter-knit relationship between bands and their fans?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's something that was kind of innately lost on us when we were putting out records. We didn't really have any information about who was buying them, and this is information that kind of never trickles through the label to the band. They kind of see how many sales they've had, and you can see kind of where the sales were, but to actually have everyone's name and everyone's email and be able to talk kind of in real time, it's a really great way of connecting the fans to the band, and also kind of like motivating and inspiring us. I think being able to see like a little icon of someone's picture in their name and saying like, I like this, I like that, or whatever they're saying, like it kind of actually makes the fan feel like a real thing, where, if you see that in Canada, you sold X amount of records, it doesn't really put a face to those people that are there. You kind of know they exist, but you don't know who they are. So I think this was a great way to kind of bring the fans and the band really close together, and I think, at least for us, it really inspired us and kind of keeps motivating us to keep making music, because we know people out there and we don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in terms of the show, the kind of closest you really get to the massive fans is they're only really a face in the crowd. And they're actual face, and not only are they a specific face that isn't sort of shrouded in a bit of darkness, they're clear, and they've got words for you, and that can kind of get straight through to you. So it's pretty incredible like that. In terms of like all these different models that people are trying to come up with, I mean, you've got the Bandcamp subscription, you've got crowdfunding, you've got subscription services like Spotify and all those sorts of things. You're a band who's been involved in are you guys on streaming services as well? Yeah, so you're involved in all three of those different aspects, I think, to some of the bigger models that people have come up with. What do you think about this for the future of music? I mean, you had released a few albums before that on label, so you're not just coming out to this sort of new and you're just in the new system. You've been in both old and new system. What do you think about how this is going to translate to the future of releasing music?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a Wild West right now, and I think what we wanted to try to do is, as things are emerging, just to try them out, to say that we've had experience. And I think there's pros and cons of, all places, and I think the most important thing is that people and bands and labels are trying to stay current and not trying to swim against the stream, but to try to go with it and try to get creative about how you can build excitement. And if it means that you're not going to be selling as many physical units as you were in the past, finding ways to still be involved and still build a hype and still grow and market and do all the things that bands need for them to do. So I think there's lots of things to do, and I think it's just a matter of creative thinking and really, just testing the waters and trying out new things.
Have you given any thought to, hey, like we've settled down on this is a model we're going to go with, or we want to try something different, or how do you guys feel about releasing music in the future?
Yeah, like right now we haven't discussed how we're going to do the next album, but like it feels a lot better to have like at least 3 options as the ones that we've already tried, and kind of using that as, when we get to that point when we're working and recording the album, to kind of see what would suit it best. And I think it's just one thing that was really empowering for us was to see that at any time we can just post a song on Bandcamp and instantaneously people can listen to it and buy it, and right away like kind of create momentum where that was something that we hadn't been able to try in the past. So it's just good to know our options, and I feel like we have a lot of possibilities, and we got to kind of just choose what we want to do with the next release.
How did you get into music?
Well, I come from a pretty musical family. Like, my parents played instruments, and pretty much right when I was a kid, I started taking piano lessons and stuff like that. So it's always been a big part of just my growing up. And then from there, going to school and just meeting friends, and that was kind of like a popular pastime to just play guitar together and learn cover songs, and it kind of just went on from there.
How'd you get into, like, heavy music?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of playing guitar and then kind of seeing that in, metal and progressive music. To me, that was some of where the most technical playing came from. So I think when you're younger, you always kind of aspire to try to be the fastest and the craziest and all that stuff. And a lot of that stuff had happened or was happening in metal, so I think that's why I gravitated to it.
In terms of your playing and your composing of music, what's really interesting me about it is the fact that it's not like grind your face off death metal or anything like that, but it has a real intensity. Like, you're always sort of being pulled along for this kind of incredible journey. How do you go about that? How do you create that sort of feeling?
Yeah, I think more and more as we as a band continue to write songs, we're just trying to find a way to think of the song as a whole, but not kind of dumb it down too much so it's conventional. So I think we always know that, like, nothing isn't like out of reach, and that we can always at any point take a song, make a direct turn, and go off on a tangent or whatever. But at the same time, trying to keep themes repeating and just kind of letting it do its thing and not overthinking it, but just trying to make it feel like it's, like you said, like a journey or something that's kind of just moving along and taking you to the next spot and the next spot.
Last question, and I know it's an incredibly difficult one, but do you have any favourite bands or artists, bands that have been particularly influential to you?
Yeah, I think hands down, the most influential would be Propagandhi. A, being Canadian, but also kind of being that legendary band that started as like a raunchy punk band, but have kind of morphed into this like progressive thrash metal band. And the fact that they're kind of still doing it 25 or so years later, that's an inspiration, just the longevity of their career, and the fact that every time they put out a record, they don't really compromise their sound, and it's always, they knock it out of the park. So that's something that's always stuck with me.
Protest the Hero will be playing at Melbourne at the Corner Hotel on April 21st, supporting their Pacific Myth release. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to the show.
Thanks for listening to the MOSHPIT Backstage podcast. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and Omni. To find out more about the show, go to www.syn.org.au/moshpit. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/moshpitonsin, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at moshpitsin. The regular MOSHPIT radio show broadcasts punk, rock and metal tunes and interviews every Thursday nights on SYN 9.7 on FM and digital radios. Listeners outside of Melbourne, Australia can stream SYN 9.7 online at www.syn.org.au. Thanks to Vintage Ruin for the music.
Hi, this is Tomato from Flash Gun Apocalypse.
Hi, I'm Enid from Girls School.
I am Phoebe Pinnock from Heavenly Axe.
Hey, this is Gary Oldmead of the Misfits.
Hey, this is Kat Sproul from Horizon's Edge, and you're listening to the MOSHPIT on SYN FM.
Hi, this is Einar from Leopard.
Hi, I'm Virginia Lilly from the band Lily.
This is Raul from 1349.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ali from Zebrahead.
Hey, everybody, this is Charlie Benante with Anthrax, and you are listening to the MOSHPIT on SYN.